You're listening to Systemic Error Podcast. The failure was designed.
The real reason the GOP election heist will fail, pure incompetence, based on an article by Nick Hildren. Incompetence is not a firewall. Jamelle Bouie's point is simple enough. Donald Trump and Republicans may be trying to lay the groundwork to contest or steal the midterms, but the machinery they would need is messy, legalistic, and hard to execute. The trouble is that this framing risks turning authoritarian sabotage into a competence contest. The issue is not whether the plot is elegant. The issue is that people with institutional power are already using the state, the courts, and propaganda to damage the legitimacy of the vote before ballots are even counted. Who has the levers? The actors with real power in this story are not confused bystanders. Trump is using the presidency to issue executive orders that try to pull election control toward the White House. His administration is filing lawsuits over election administration. Federal agents are being discussed as a tool of intimidation. Republicans in Congress are part of the same ecosystem, with Mike Johnson positioned to benefit from whatever parliamentary chaos can be manufactured in January. That matters because power is not only what happens on election night. Power is also the ability to flood the zone with claims, lawsuits, threats, and administrative pressure so that the public is trained to expect interference. You do not need a flawless scheme to do damage. You only need enough leverage to create doubt, delay, and fear. The veneer is the point. Bouie is right about one thing: the law still matters to them. Not because they respect it, but because they want its appearance. They sue because legal theater is useful. They want election sabotage to look procedural, not criminal. They want coercion to arrive wearing a blazer and carrying a court filing. That is the part too many analysts soften. When an administration loses case after case and keeps filing anyway, that is not proof of moderation. It is evidence of method. The point is not that the law will save us because Trump cannot read it. The point is that the law is being used as camouflage for political aggression. The veneer itself is a weapon. Failure still does damage. Bouie argues that physically suppressing voters across dozens of competitive districts would require too much coordination, too much manpower, too much competence. Maybe so. But incompetence does not make the threat harmless. A bad coup attempt can still intimidate voters, exhaust election offices, dam up courts, and normalize the idea that federal force belongs at polling places. The focus on whether Republicans can pull off a perfect heist understates the actual damage of repeated failed attempts. Every bogus lawsuit, every executive order, every threat of control over ballots teaches supporters to treat democratic outcomes as optional. The goal is not only to win, it is to make the electorate expect chaos and accept interference as the new baseline. No one is coming to save the process. There is a comforting fantasy buried in the institutional language here that the rules will automatically sort this out. Bouie notes that there is no mechanism for Republicans to simply block the swearing-in of Democrats if Democrats win the House. That is true as far as it goes, but the larger point is darker. A system can contain rules and still be vulnerable to organized bad faith actors who use procedure to create confusion around the rules. January is not protected by magic. It is protected only if the people responsible for enforcing the process actually do their jobs, and if enough public pressure exists to make abuse costly. That is why be vigilant is not enough by itself. The real requirement is institutional force on the side of democratic outcomes, not faith in formalism. The patent authoritarianism by fiction. This is the central patent, not total competence, but strategic degradation. Not a clean seizure of power, but a constant effort to make democratic administration slower, uglier, more uncertain, and easier to contest. Republicans do not need to invent a perfect mechanism for overturning elections if they can keep testing the boundaries, laundering intent through legal filings, and training their base to believe every loss is illegitimate. That is the political meaning Bouie's commentary only partly reaches. The threat is not made less serious because the people executing it are clumsy. In modern American politics, clumsiness and cruelty often travel together. The danger is a movement with state power, no democratic restraint, and just enough procedural discipline to keep trying until the system buckles. What this story actually shows, the real story is not that Trump's team may be too incompetent to steal the midterms cleanly. The real story is that they are already using the power. They have to pre-poison the outcome, and too much commentary still treats that as a test of skill instead of an abuse of office. That is how democratic erosion advances in plain sight, not through one immaculate coup, but through repeated acts of institutional vandalism that normalize the next one. You've been listening to Systemic Error. Thanks to AlterNet for today's article, with the automated voice of John. Thanks for listening.